Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Excited for another episode this week. So this week we've got Marcy Sagel on the show. So Marcy is the founder and principal of MSA Interiors, a leading commercial interior design firm specializing in multifamily housing, student housing, senior living, and affordable housing, and other complex commercial projects. We're talking a little bit off camera about some of the stuff that she's got working on. So we're excited to dive into some of that today. She's got over 25 years of industry experience. So obviously we'll have seen a lot of different market cycles and different trends that have been happening in the industry. She's established herself as a trusted expert in creating innovative, functional, and aesthetically compelling spaces that align with her clients' strategic goals. Obviously, talking about aesthetically pleasing, she's got this beautiful stained glass window for those of you guys that are catching this on video in her background. It's amazing. Her expertise extends beyond design to include advisory roles for major manufacturers, helping shape product lines that cater to evolving market demands. She's a sought-after thought leader, of course, and she shares her insights through speaking engagements and collaborations, just like who she's on the show today. So we're excited to have her on. She's an active member of an entrepreneurs organization there in Baltimore, and she embodies entrepreneurial leadership and innovation. Hey, Marcy, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on.
Steve, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, no. It's so you're a unique guest in the regard where most of us it's guys and we're investors and just we're comfortable with the nuts and the bolts, and so to have an outside eye, more focus on aesthetics and things. I think that's a welcome. It's a welcome to have you on the show. It's a welcome change, Marlon, for me and for a lot of our listeners. But yeah, definitely excited to have you on to hear about not only your journey in business, but also the design space in particular. But for those of our listeners that may not be familiar with you, obviously I gave a little bit of a background, but kind of give us more of your backstory. How did you get involved in this business as a whole? Was this something you were working on like since you were a kid, or what brought you into the design space?
So I've had a passion for design since I was a teenager. My mother worked with different designers and I'm the only daughter. So I got included in a lot of those decisions and grew a passion from a very, very young age. I literally every day love looking at design aesthetics. It is just an incredible feeling. I never get tired of it. And so when they say do what you love, I'm doing what I love. So it's exciting. Every project to me is exciting.
That's awesome. And a lot of times like that, if it's something that you're passionate about, then it doesn't feel so much like work. I know that's kind of a common trope. It's like, okay, well, do what you love, but you truly are. And so I think a lot of times that actually shows in people's work. If you're listening in and you're like, man, I really hate my job. Okay, well, guess what? Everybody can pick up on that. Like that's going to translate to your work. And so Marcy's expressing there that she loves what she does. And so a lot of times, hey, that's going to be reflected in the product that we put out. And so just something to keep in mind. If you hate what you're doing, you're obviously listening to the right podcast and shows like this to help hopefully inspire you to do something more. But well, that's great. So you've got a passion for design and you're still obviously actively involved into studying things like that. So how did you get started into real estate? I get it. Most people kind of go, hey, well, we're just going to design, I don't know, houses or do decorating and that kind of stuff. But you've gone so far beyond that. I don't think that there's a lot of people in your space. So how did you get started into, let's say, outfitting commercial property and helping out with design on those end?
I was considered sort of an expert in cabinetry design. So for multifamily and larger scales, basically like kind of a go-to person that people would come to and say, where do we go for this? What should we do with this? How do we cut the cost? And we would redline a lot of the drawings. So while I was doing that, I met the head of a very large public group, and he himself was an architect, and we really hit it off. And I helped him with the cabinetry for their multifamily large format buildings, very, very large ones, including in New York City, I think two large towers. And we were doing full renovations of a very old project, which is still in existence. And he taught me everything I could possibly imagine and then some on multifamily. So I really didn't know a lot. I just knew one space of it. And as we started to work on projects, I asked a lot of questions. He very willingly gave of his time and energy to sort of show me things and why they had to be a certain way and why he preferred them to be that way. And because of his background as of being an architect and a developer, it was incredibly helpful for my multifamily journey and learning about the best way to do projects and the best way to save money on projects, and basically teaching me that the documentation that we do for the construction documents are probably the most important thing we're going to do on the project, beside the space planning and all of the original stuff that we start on early on. And he gave me the ideas that I still to this day, and the values that we work with. He showed me basically how I can do that and really get the most out of a project and be economical at the same time. And by that I mean he basically showed me, if you draw this right, and we don't have to redraw it and we don't have to value engineer it after the fact and have it redrawn, and the general contractor can basically look at it, look at your documents and go, these are the cleanest, most efficient documents I've ever seen, you're going to be 1,000% ahead of everyone else in the category that you're in. So I took that and I really went with it. So we really worked hard on making our documents perfect. We worked hard on making our space plan options multiple and plenty, and including everybody on the team in that, and really involving everyone. He just showed me and opened a door for me that I didn't know existed. And that's why I always tell everyone, you never know what you're going to learn from each person that you do a project with, because everyone has something to offer and everyone has something to teach you. And so just open your eyes, open your ears, listen, and really understand what they're asking for, and try to give them exactly what they're asking for and the price point that they're asking it for.
No, that's great. That's awesome. There's a number of different things that to kind of dive into, even just in your kind of your background there. For one, the power of mentorship. Oh my goodness. I'm imagining, hey, you can attribute obviously a ton of your success in your career to having found this one mentor. So for those of our listeners, right, if you're afraid, you're reluctant to kind of seek that out, hey, you know what? You can learn so much, even if they're not miles down the road from you, like in terms of experience and whatnot. Obviously, of course, if you have access to those people, wonderful. Even if they're just a couple of steps down the road from you, that can be incredibly beneficial, because just as Marcy's mentor helped her out, wow, hey, you know what? Avoid this problem, because guess what? He probably learned that from challenges that he experienced. And so it's like, hey, don't do this. Do this instead. You're going to have happy clients. That's going to be way easier for you and the team. And your people are going to want to pick up the phone to call you back. So the power of mentorship, absolutely huge. And then I love too that even the way that you position that, where it's like, hey, every person on the team can have valuable input. And so that goes back to, or that highlights, hey, you know what? Be a lifelong learner. I always get scared when there are people like, oh, I know everything. You can't teach me anything new on that. I'm like, that's a dangerous place to be. Everybody has value. Somebody has done something differently than you. And that's great. I want your input. I want some insight and shed some light on maybe a situation I just haven't encountered yet. And if that can help shortcut the process, shortcut the timeline, boy, that's really can help to fast track you and your success. And obviously, I know that's teed up. You've been in a number of different sectors. We highlighted a little bit just there in your intro. It's not just multifamily. I know that's where it sounds like you cut your teeth in the business, but you guys have gone on to do so many other different segments in the market as well, right? I mean, you mentioned student housing and senior living and assisted care and that kind of deal. Do you have like a favorite in terms of projects that you like to work on? I don't want to pinhole or keep you in a box or pigeonhole you
I
there,
don't
but
have a favorite per se. I love the creativity that every project brings. What I really like is the collaboration and the installation day. So
mm,
we go as a team to go install a project. It is pretty fun and exciting. And obviously, I see the project as it's moving through its different phases, including walkthroughs and all kinds of different things that we do with the client, with the general contractor, with the architect, to make sure. And we're looking at pictures every single week on file on Procore and whatever we're using. We use whatever the general contractor is using. So
mm,
whatever program or software they're using, that's what we're working in. So we're looking at updated construction photos and documents and notes every single week. And so when you actually step on site and you feel the full dimension of what you've been working on for could be anywhere from 1 to 3 years, usually sometimes 5, depending on the project. It's got a good feeling, and I don't think that one makes you feel better than the other because they're all really fun and different. There's different teams that make you feel like you're having a better experience. So I think in that respect, yes, when you have an incredible architecture group and an incredible group of very skilled developers that are working together on the project, and they've done lots of good projects before, and they know how it flows, that makes it really easy. And one thing I learned, the same mentor that I was talking about, I remember a very large project we did in a very prominent area in DC. And the architect was adamant that it was going to be this particular brick on the exterior of the building. And we went to the meeting, and this is a mild mannered, lovely human being that I have learned so much from. And we're sitting at this big meeting at a very large architectural, very famous architectural group. And this architect is adamant, this is the brick we're using. And my client said, that is not the brick we're using. And he said, well, I feel very strongly about this. And my client said, well, when you're paying for a building and it's your money, you can feel as strongly as you'd like. He said, but since we're paying for the building, we're going to go with the brick that we would like. And it taught me, again, a valuable lesson. The building is not yours, it belongs to someone else, and you're working for them. And while you have a design aesthetic and while you have a direction in your head that you really feel strongly about, they ultimately are the decision makers, and you can guide them. And that's my job and our team's job, to guide them and guide them down a path of success where it leases up quickly and everybody's happy and you're doing phase two. But ultimately, it's their responsibility to make the final decision. And so you have to allow that. And so it's a gift in learning, and it's a gift in allowing other people to make big decisions and being comfortable with those decisions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess I hadn't thought about that in terms of like, okay, hey, depending on this, you're obviously working on these big projects, so you're in a room full of very competent people, very likely successful people, executives, people with obviously controls to the purse strings, and so it's like a lot of times I got to imagine you're managing personalities because everybody's going to have their input. Obviously, you guys have your input in terms of like, well, this works, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, who's paying the bill, right? So you got to keep people happy. That's yeah. I guess I hadn't thought about that.
And we have a little skill set that we use here when we want to sway someone in that direction. So typically, if we want to sway someone in a direction, we will render it. We render a lot of our projects in-house. We do everything in-house. And when we render it, you can render multiple spaces with multiple different finishes, and you can really see how it looks sort of in the 3D. And so when we do that, it's really about how you present it. If a client asks for something specific, give them what they're asking for, but then also show them what's in your head and what you're thinking may be another option, because sometimes people really do need to see something in order to make a decision.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that many, many times. It's like people have this is why people do staging, or now you can do it virtually a lot, but it's just working with, let's say, a homeowner. If you're just looking for a house, it's like, I just can't see this space without furniture in it. I have no, like somebody like me really struggles with something like that. I'm very visual, and it's like, I don't know. My wife, on the other hand, oh, well, I already see the furniture here. And no, you can't put this here. And some people just have an eye for that. And then this is the beauty of a team. This is the beauty of working with people who, okay, hey, this is my strong suit. I work in this area. And so, of course, I would imagine they definitely respect you coming in and kind of bringing your eye and your skill set into the project. So yeah, that's great. I would imagine too, I'm just thinking about this. Obviously, you guys have worked on projects around the country. You have to take that into account too. The design aesthetic also has, okay, there's practical aspects to it too. I'm in Hawaii. Obviously, we're never dealing with snow load or any of that kind of stuff versus, hey, you're dealing with projects in New York or anywhere in the Northeast, DC or whatever. Like it's just a different design for one that maybe fits the local aesthetic. Okay, hey, they have a certain cultural elements or something that's really big here in Hawaii. And I would imagine too, okay, like, hey, depending on where you are, let's say in New York, hey, they're going to want something to fit into what's happening kind of during maybe that period of time. Is that something you guys always have to take into consideration? Is that something that you could incorporate where it's like, hey, this has actually worked really well in this part of the country. I think this would be really cool for your project that we're working on something somewhere completely different. Is that a thing, or is that am I just
No, it's definitely a thing. We don't tend to repeat things that we do. We tend to try to come up with new and creative things. But what we do is we learn from different projects. So, for instance, if we do a very large suburban property, let's say in San Antonio, which we did 720 units.
I'm from San Antonio.
Oh, good for you. That's kind of wild. I didn't know that. Anyway, we did 2 phases and they were incredibly fast. They were leased up very, very fast. And so, but they have a big resort outside pool and gaming outside and barbecue areas and all of these very, very large scale, like walking paths and park like settings in the background. So when you incorporate that into an area like San Antonio, you're not obviously going to get that in an area like DC or close to DC and Virginia. They just don't have those kinds of outdoor spaces. But every once in a while, you do get one. And so we had one where we incorporated an outside park, a bike path that connected to a larger bike path. And we did like outside movie theaters and lights and all kinds of sitting areas where people could hang out and really kind of like activated it in a great way. So you do learn a lot of things from every project that you work on, and you do maybe pick up a thing or two that you can kind of add to another project that may be a little bit different for that area. So the answer is yes. Again, always learning as much as you can and taking all that knowledge for each project to the next project.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating to me. Yeah, and I grew up in San Antonio, but I've been here in Hawaii for the last 16 years, and so they're totally different. Of course, like you're not dealing with the heat for here in Hawaii that we would have back in Texas, but also too like the space different. And again, just even those two cities in comparison to anybody who's been to either one, specifically here on Oahu, everything is this is very metropolitan, and so not dissimilar to maybe New York City versus like that, like Texas where it's like, okay, hey, we've got lots of land. We're going to put in this huge amenity deck or amenities to a neighborhood or a subdivision or whatever, versus like here, everything is vertical. And so they really have to factor that into the footprint of the building. Hey, do we want to incorporate some kind of a recreation area? Well, guess what? That's going to be on the 10th floor recreation deck. It's going to be downsized, of course, to if you compare to what the acreage that you're working with for a project in Texas or something similar. So yeah, that must be fun. It's like it's a new challenge. Like I see why you would say, well, we don't repeat things. Of course, I'm sure you guys have you have your style, but every plot of land is different, right? So I would imagine it's just geographic, topographical changes and just challenges. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, and on top of that, everyone has different budget. So,
Yes.
and the market is different for each
Yes.
property. So we may be doing a very super high end project where the rents are incredibly high, or we may be doing an affordable housing project, still always making it look spectacular, but everything has to be a lot more durable, has more of an age range, a lot more of a senior community in an affordable project that might see all age ranges. And so you have to accommodate for that as well. And that means with the amenity spaces as well, aging in place in some affordable housing projects, and may want to incorporate some different programs that we may not see in different parts of the country. So it just
Mhm.
depends on what their sort of programming is, and we work with their management team to figure out what that programming is and what's most beneficial for the building.
Oh yeah, and I would have to imagine too. You've seen different trends over the years. Okay, because a lot of this is, hey, building materials change pretty frequently. A lot of innovations happen in the building materials that come out. Okay, well, great. Can we incorporate that into this new project? Or, like you said, budget constraints obviously are always going to factor into any project.
It's changed so dramatically. We used to put in package centers
Mm.
and you would collect your package. Now we've got rooms that are ginormous to pick up your packages because everybody's ordering online. So it's just changed over the years. And so you have to build things and design things that can accept change without having to be structural over time. So any of these sort of like package and mail centers that we're working on, they're going to change in 5 years from now because they just are. And so we have to be aware of how that change may affect it and be able to pull that stuff right out and put some new stuff in, and where you're positioning those particular rooms in conjunction to where the trucks pull up to deliver them. So just thinking about all of that when you're space planning and really looking at the path that those people are going to take with their carts to basically get to the package room, because all of those walls are going to get pretty scuffed up in that path. And so you kind of want to think about that and have it, if it's a long-term hold building, you want to make sure that you're not redoing it every 3 years. You want a 10-year minimum look at some potential redos, but you don't want to have to redo everything. You just want to redo certain things to give it a fresh look. So it's keeping that in mind while you're designing it, so that if you're sprinkling amenities throughout the building, what could those amenities turn into as you move forward down a path of time? So
Yeah, oh my goodness, that's mind numbing even to think like, okay, like, yes, we need something that's functional today. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of times, hey, it's not like you start work on a project and it's done 6 months from now. It's likely, like you mentioned earlier, this is going to be a multi-year, typically, depending on the size of the project, it's going to take several years. And so it's like, okay, hey, not only does it have to work for my design literally right now, it's going to have to work at completion. And we're also thinking an additional 5 to 10 years down the road, like in terms of functionality. So, like, yeah, I would never think, okay, where's my Amazon guy going to drop off? Because of course, like that's a huge consideration now. Or Uber Eats, and like, how do people handle all of these deliveries that are coming in? I would never think of that. And so, yeah, I'm thankful that there's people like you in the world that have the foresight to take that into consideration. And
but that also helps, I think, a lot just from an investment standpoint for the
Mhm.
developer. Like if you're doing a pro forma of how much money you're going to put into the building and how often, you want it to be as little as possible and the least amount of times. So you want to see the return on your investment, but you want to give it a little bit of a facelift, but you don't want to have a full building overhaul. So
Right.
you think about that as you're designing, and you really kind of pull different materials that might have a longer shelf life, not just be a current now color, but more of a wow color that might last a longer time.
Yeah, you have to take into consideration what, oh, okay, we want this to be evergreen. This is not going to be, all right, well, hey, this is the style of today. It's the trend of today, but it's going to look incredibly dated. And I see that frequently. I've seen thousands of properties over the years, and it's like, oh gosh, that did not age well. You know, you can immediately tell. Well, that's cool. Now, I'd be genuinely curious to get your take on now. How many projects would you guys say like at any time? Is it just like, hey, no, our team is focused on one at a time, or like, hey, no, we've got 20 projects going at any,
We
at
typically
one
have
time. So,
between 50 and 60.
wow, okay, so yeah, huge swath of
Yeah.
projects, timelines, design elements. Oh my goodness, like
Different
that's good to know about.
timelines, different. We put a team on every project,
Mhm.
which includes a project manager, a senior designer, sometimes two senior designers, depending on the size, mid-level designer, and everyone here has a lot of experience. So we really try to put a valuable team together that has really experienced people on it for that particular type of project. And that team works on it from beginning to end. And
Mhm.
so the client has seen their faces on every call, on their every other week calls or every week calls, depending on the project. And they've gotten to know everyone quite well. So it's an established team, and it works pretty well when we do that.
Wow, that's awesome. And then I'm just curious, Marcy, you've been in the business for a couple of decades. Like I always like to talk to people that have been, especially let's say real estate in general, like over the last couple of years, because anybody that's gotten in, any investors, oh, if you've gotten in the last couple of years, you just say, oh, everything's magical. Or if you just jumped in the last couple of years, well, everything is horrible. Interest rates are high, like market's really tight. I'd be curious, like, what kind of trends have you been seeing? Like, are you seeing anything the last 5 years? I mean, we're in a completely different environment from 5 years ago. Obviously, multifamily starts and all that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff has been put on pause. The capital costs are quite high right now, labor, materials, all that kind of stuff. Have you seen certain trends changing, and how volatile is
Yeah.
that in terms of how that factors into your projects?
Yeah, I think we certainly had a number of projects go on pause,
Mm,
okay, which is not uncommon, to be honest. projects tend to have different issues, permitting, zoning, different things that happen as you're going through the process of getting a building going. So nothing is unusual to us. We've been through it all. There's been some that have sat legally longer than they should have, just because they are having an issue with neighbors or zoning or whatever they're doing. But typically everything moves forward eventually. That's what I always say. Maybe pause for now, but it's moving ahead sometime. And what we have seen a lot of lately is that properties that have always remained in the same hands have either been partnering with other groups.
Hmm.
Like someone owns the land, somebody else will come and develop it, and they'll become partners. So we're seeing a lot more of that. And we're also seeing a lot more of people basically purchasing a job well into development. Like they haven't broken ground, but they've got everything else sort of buttoned up, ready to go. And another group where I have a meeting on Thursday, it was originally with a different group. We designed it, it's to 90%. And now a new group's bought it. So we're getting comfortable with them and having the conversations about any changes that they might want to make for the building to make it their own, because they're a group with a brand. And so we're designing a little bit more towards their brand, making the units look a little bit more like their brand. So those kind of changes were typically, we see those, but we're seeing a lot more of those now. And I think during the 08-11 downturn, I felt like we were too many eggs in one basket. So I decided to take us into more of a diversification of revenue streams. And that's why we do so many different types of projects, because we had the experience. So we decided to go after projects in those different areas to fill in any gaps during a downturn or if there was another downturn. So while we've had a downturn in the last few years and other people in our industry have been very affected by it, I would say we have not really felt it in our company, because we have been very fortunate, because we have so many different types of projects that we do and different revenue streams. Some are affected, some are not affected. And so I think from a entrepreneurial standpoint, it taught me a valuable lesson about diversification and really opening up those revenue streams and making sure that each one is as strong as the other.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's to your point there. That's a huge lesson in entrepreneurship. It's okay, hey, we don't want to pigeonhole yourself into, hey, one strategy only, one market, effectively a one-trick pony, because guess what? All it takes is some regulation change, administration change, like that. Like we've seen a huge rise in capital costs. Again, like so many of these things can have a domino effect or can really torpedo somebody's business if they're kind of in the early stages on. You've obviously learned those lessons and have adjusted accordingly. It's not what I imagine too. We've had projects in multiple states, obviously not to the level of you guys, but every state has its own personality. Like you mentioned, zoning and regulation and local ordinance. You're dealing with different people in each one of these places, and some are more friendly than others. Like we deal in multifamily, so landlord tenant code is it's different. Some states are more owner friendly versus tenant friendly, and so you have to take that into consideration. And I'm sure you guys kind of bake that into maybe your timelines. Oh, okay, we got a project coming up in this state. All right, well, hey, typically that's going to take us an extra 6 to 12 months just through permitting and back and forth with the local permanent planning or whatever that looks like. But thankfully, through your experience, I'm sure you guys have already kind of, all right, we're aware of that. We know, the team knows. Yeah, have you, what has been like kind of the most interesting, like I'm personally, I'm just thinking like a lot of the conversions that happen, like you're telling me you're seeing like new partnerships and whatnot, or changes in kind of ownership groups and whatnot. Obviously the last few years, we've seen a lot of, with a pullback, let's say from office, we've seen office to condo conversions and that kind of deal. I'm curious, have you seen kind of unique stuff pop on the radar that you're like, oh, okay, this is new. This is a new challenge. Most of it has been pretty traditional, but somebody's tasked us with something new this time. And okay, let's take our hand. Let's take our hand at it.
Yeah. Nothing seems new. Everything seems like how it's been going for a while. But I think the difference is multifamily developers getting into student housing on a private level and then finding out they're going to get a master lease from that particular university. And it's kind of like a win-win for everyone, because there's a lot of shortage of housing at a lot of universities. So when private developers get property and they can then develop it as student housing and work with the university, and tie all that in. That's kind of fun and exciting because it kind of changes direction. And I like that. I think it's fun. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And then, yeah, I would think too, just to kind of circle back to your point about diversification, guys, if you or everybody whoever's listening, tuning in, Marcy highlighted something there in terms of diversification of their personal business. You also need to be diversified. A lot of people talk about, hey, have your mix of stocks and bonds and equities or whatever, but she highlighted it earlier. Marcy highlighted this, like geographic diversity, also key. Like a lot can happen. And if you're just only have exposure to one market, one business, one strategy, like make sure that your bases are covered. COVID highlighted a lot of that, like here locally. Our state in particular, very shut down. If we didn't have business operating in different markets, guess what? That would have been a death knell probably to our business. But because we were diversified, we had strategies happening in different markets, that really opened up doors. And so something to keep in mind, geographic diversity, industry, let's say diversification or strategy diversification, very, very vital. But yeah, okay. So Marcy, this is the point in our show where we have something we call our fire round, just a little bit more rapid fire Q&A. Is that something you're up for?
yeah, oh yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, first question. What is your favorite book recommendation? And it can be any topic. It can be business, design, entrepreneurship, mindset, you name it. Do you have any go-to book recommendations when people ask?
I love the book Profit First.
Profit First. Very good.
Yep. Have you ever read that?
Yeah.
I think it is a book that anybody who wants to run a business should read and reread about how to actively be running your business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very, very valuable. Very, very good.
Great book.
All right. Next question. What would you consider your superpower to be?
Fixing things. I'm a really good problem solver. And I also taking care of people. I've in my lifetime taken care of a lot of people who were ill and then subsequently passed away. So I don't know why I'm that person, but I am definitely that person in my family. And so I have learned a lot about myself and about really getting moments to enjoy life and really understand and look at how to really help people in a difficult place in their life.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's a special call. Obviously, not everybody can do it, and it can provide you with a beautiful perspective on life and people. And yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, next question. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career thus far?
08-11, I was in one segment of the market, and I paid my entire staff their salaries at full and didn't pay myself for 3 years.
Wow.
Yep. Lesson learned. Diversification came immediately. And then I never not paid myself a salary again. So just really big lessons. You learn the hard way. Our industry went through a very difficult time. And so when I was only in one aspect of it, it really affected how our business was. And so I decided to do that diversification that I talked about. And that was the lesson learned.
Yeah, no, a huge lesson. And I was in the market at that time. And yeah, I did not, I was in the same boat, completely got crushed. Yeah. So, but see, this is the awesome thing. And this is part of one of the reasons we do the show is, hey, a lot of times we learn so much more from the things that did not go well. Of course, everybody wants to celebrate the successes and the wins. And ideally, sure, none of us have any losses at any time, but that's just not life. That's not reality. And a lot of times you're better off having gone through the fire, right? Making the changes, going through those stressful situations, right? Your company wouldn't be what it is today, where you can have 60 projects going on nationwide, employing how many people, making an impact without having gone through that tough season. So kudos to you. And again, just a huge lesson for our listeners that are tuning in. All right, next question. If you had a time machine and you can go back and visit 20-year-old Marcy, what advice would you have for her?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I would get involved in more of learning from other entrepreneurs at a younger age. I waited too long to do that, in my own opinion. I think I had coaches and I had advisors, but I didn't have successful other entrepreneurs. And so had I done that at an earlier age, I feel like I would have learned a lot of more valuable lessons earlier on.
Gotcha. So just like the community, effectively, like entrepreneur community project. Yeah. Yes. So valuable.
We sit around a table, and if you have an issue going on, our whole forum will sit together and just hash out ideas for you. And these are or give an experience share as to why they would do it this way or that way. And it's invaluable. And so you you can't get that from anything else. And so there are plenty of coaches out there that have never run a successful business, but they're great coaches. But there's nothing like another entrepreneur to give you advice when they've been through it before.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it can be a very lonely place, especially if you are the only one, let's say in your family or in your circle that is stepping out and you're a business owner. Again, like another business owner can resonate with the struggle. And it's difficult for I think a lot of people to grasp. And so yeah, community is absolutely vital. So yeah, no, that's great advice. All right. Well, Marcy, well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. If our audience would like to connect with you or your company, and what's the best way for them to reach out and get in touch?
Best way is through our website. It's msainteriors.com and has the S at the end of interiors. So again, it's msainteriors.com. It's got a little email button that you can hit, and you can send an email to either Mary Beth or myself. And we'll be glad to respond and answer any questions that you may have.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to hop on with me and the listeners. I've learned a lot, and so like I definitely appreciate that. Thank you for taking time out of your day. But to look forward to circling back with you maybe sometime in the future and kind of see if you see anything on the horizon of industry changes and see where we are in a couple of years. I think we're turning a corner here coming up. And so for those of our investors, don't worry, guys. I feel like there's a breakthrough hopefully on the horizon. But no, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for taking time out for us. And we look forward to catching up with you in the future. Aloha, Marcy. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, great conversation with Marcy Sagel over at MSA Interiors. What a unique space that she's in, handling design for large projects in different sectors. That was one of the learned lessons that she made mention of on the show. Hey, diversification of strategies they learned during GFC, where, okay, well, hey, look, we're just in one market, maybe doing one strategy, and business gets torpedoed going that route. Like she said, she didn't pay herself for 3 years, just trying to lick her wounds and kind of take care of the rest of the team. And that's a learned lesson. That's a lesson for all of us. Hey, if you're just in one market, maybe that's a potential weak spot for you. Or just doing one strategy. If somebody's been doing, let's say, Airbnb or something like that, well, guess that may have worked the last 10 years. But now, hey, we're in a slow economy. Maybe you have to pivot to a different segment and make sure that you're covered in another part of your portfolio or your business in order to make sure that you can keep the doors open and whatnot. So that's just a great outlook on things from the entrepreneurial standpoint. Obviously, she's got a huge design background and an incredibly successful business over at MSA Interiors. Guys, she highlighted the benefit or the how valuable community is, especially as an entrepreneur. I've seen this in all areas of life. Hey, you want people around you who want you to win. You want people around you who want to see you succeed and can relate to what it is that you're going through, whether that be real estate investing, whether that be business ownership. And that's such a valuable asset to have in your corner, is to have community. So we have our monthly meetups, of course, Honolulu multifamily and more. It's not just about multifamily. It really is just all kinds of entrepreneurs, investors, people who want to level up their life and get better. So if you're in Honolulu and you want to come out and join us, make sure you hit up our group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. You can find us on Facebook, Eventbrite, Bigger Pockets. We post it in a number of different areas. We have those every month. So we'd love to see you out at the next meetup. And if you guys are finding value in the show, of course, like and subscribe. Make sure that you're sharing the episode. We'd love to be able to continue to do more of these episodes, get bigger and better people on the show to be able to share their wisdom and insight with you to help you level up your journey. And so we're excited to have that, continue to do that, but we can only do that with feedback from you guys. So please make sure you're liking and subscribing. And if you guys are interested in investing with us or learning more about our acquisition strategy and company, go to tricityequity.com to learn more, schedule a call with somebody on our team. We'd love to talk to you and see how we can help you to create generational wealth through real estate. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Go out, take some action, and we'll see you on the next one. Aloha.